Hello, everyone, and welcome to Osquery Office Hours. Here it is, mid-June. It's gray in Boston. I hope it's nice where everyone else is. Looks like you all have very nice background light, so it's probably beautiful. Let's see, announcements and highlights since the last meeting. Zach, it looked like you cut 518, or tagged it at least.
Yeah, working on it. Maybe it was because I pushed a tag manually rather than drafting a release. The code signing step didn't work where it tried to download the artifact. So I deleted the tag, re-pushed it via a draft release, and that CI is running. When that completes, I'll try the code signing again.
Yeah, I bet that my memory as the code signing is looking at the releases maybe, so it doesn't surprise me. I don't think it looks at tags.
Yeah, that makes sense. So yeah, hopefully we'll get those binaries ready today. Once they are ready, I will drop a note into the general channel in case there are other community members that want to do some testing. But I know it's usually Glide and Fleet doing most of it, and I see Lucas is here, so he's aware. He's usually the one who pushes it to our Edge channel, and that'll be great.
Well, awesome. It's always good to see more releases go out, and I think Fleet's been fixing a lot of things, so go Fleet.
Yeah, there's some good stuff in this release. New features as well. Constantine made the JetBrains plugins table that made it in. And yeah, so it's good stuff.
Mm-hmm. Other announcements? Okay. Next section is an open section for any questions, issues, PRs people want to discuss. Okay. Some things people wrote down into an agenda. I think probably the shorter one is the zlib upgrade. Constantine, you wrote this one down?
Yeah, I got that working pretty easily. I obviously did not want to push that into 518. Figures it probably requires a little bit of kicking the tires on this one. It compiles and it's it's not it seems like a pretty relatively small change, but I definitely want to test out some of the tables that are leveraging zlib before I finally kind of merge that in. I know Lucas already approved it, but the build is passing, and that does fix one of the smaller issues that I saw when I was compiling on Mac with the newest Xcode. There's still that whole boost thing, but I looked at that and that seemed like it was I don't know who mentioned it last time, but that definitely looks like a much larger, more complicated change since we have a very complicated CMake file for that. So
I think
zlib sounds low risk to me. So
yeah, and I think we discussed it in the past and decided similar, and we're just kind of like, oh, we might as well merge it after the release so that we have more time to catch potential issues. Now that we've tagged the release, shall we just merge it?
I'm good with that. I mean, I don't know that I'm any more likely to notice something in an unreleased OS query than I am in a PR. But this looks low risk, so I'd say we should probably just merge it.
All right, I'm merging.
Sounds
Thanks,
good to me.
Constantine.
Yep. I'm going to try to take a look at Boost, but it is certainly, it looks like it's a little above my skill level, but I'll give it a go.
Thank you.
The other agenda item that got written down here was adding TPM signatures to HTTP request headers. Victor?
Yes, that's right. I have a link there in a blueprint issue, so I'm going to try to share my tab. Not sure if I can. Is it bigger now? So some background on this. So we have a customer who would kind of who's not satisfied with the node key security approach that Osquery currently has, and also does not like MTLS due to issues with load balancer and things like that, and would also like additional security, specifically, hardware-backed security. So this proposal is to sign the outgoing HTTP requests using a CMS signature using a TPM backed private key. So this would provide obviously more security because all the requests are going to be tied to a specific hardware on the host. I mean, that's the high level. I can go into more details here.
I have some questions.
Sure.
The first thing I sort of want to understand is like what's normal here. So I would have assumed that TPM based MTLS is the common case. Like one of the things I hear from some of the Enterprise Collide customers that we do not support is whether they can use TLS certs that are like kind of in the macOS keychain distributed by the MDM for authentication as a common enough feature. And we don't support that, but we hear about it.
Yes, I agree. We've heard about it as well.
Your customer sounds like they don't want the normal thing, and that raises red flags to me.
I would say this is not quite abnormal. This kind of follows the Apple MDM approach, where they have an option to use MTLS, but if you don't use MTLS, you use this MDM signature approach where they sign all the traffic with their hardware-backed key. So I would say this is the new normal. Because with MTLS, we run into a problem with the load balancer where the load balancer needs to communicate back to the server regarding like which device the traffic is coming from.
It depends where you do TLS termination.
Right, that's true.
Yeah, I mean, I think it becomes it's a question of like operational complexity to some extent. Like it might be possible to terminate MTLS, the load balancer, but that would introduce additional challenges on then making sure that authentication information is making it to the application. Or on the other hand, you can have the load balancer just forward the encrypted traffic. I mean, Steph, the concern that you brought up was exactly the first concern that I expected to be brought up when Victor brought this to me. So we had discussed this a bit together, and I personally found his argument that like, well, Apple is doing this in the MDM protocol to be like fairly convincing, and the fact that like this is seems to be the preferred solution operationally for our customer.
So again, my inclination. So I have sort of, I could dig into details. I feel like I've got a couple of concerns though. Like it doesn't feel correct for us to add something that is not widely supported, right? So if Apple's doing it, that's a good thing in its favor. If we can find any kind of RFC so that we can like use the correct signature and header names, that's meaningful. But like it doesn't feel right to build something in for sort of like one customer into Osquery, because you could put this into an extension if you really needed to. But I just don't know what the standards are here. So I don't know if you have a different take on that.
An extension, so like a customized TLS extension, that's what you're saying?
No, what I'm saying is, so you could certainly ship logs to an extension, then have your extension do whatever wacky things you wanted. But I mean, I think if there's a standard that we as Osquery can follow, I see a lot of value. I would rather, if there's, I'm wondering if there's any kind of standard we can, draw from, like what is the right signature? What is the right algorithm? What is the right header name? How do we convey that? Alongside of that, we probably need to convey not just the signature, but what the key is. Otherwise, because then you can't look it up as is, right? The signature's not enough. So I feel like there's stuff to unpack, and then there's also a question about what would cross-platform be? Can we do this on Apple, and can we do this on Windows? Do we have routes to getting there? On Apple, you probably couldn't do it inside the secure enclave. You'd probably have to use another key. So how could we hint the sourcing of the keys? This is why I'm like, is there any kind of standard here?
I mean, I think you could use the key in the secure enclave. I mean, that's how you would do it in Apple. It wouldn't be TPM, but it looks similarly.
I would be overjoyed if you found a way to have a root daemon use secure enclave-driven keys.
Would it? Well, I'm not familiar with those APIs on Mac OS, but I guess I would hope that the API would allow you to request a signature, not to extract the key.
Yeah, you would.
You're saying no, there aren't
Apple
APIs.
only will let you do that if you're running in a user context, not a root context. Most people
interesting.
query in root contexts. Maybe it's changed. Maybe I didn't find the right API, but have we looked? So I would love it if you found that API.
Okay.
But I think I'm a little bit concerned because this sounds bespoke to one potentially large customer. And I don't know if there's another way we can get there or what the right answer is. Like one of the things that I think we're seeing inside MTLS these days is there's like more OS support. Correct me if I'm wrong. We're like, at least on macOS, I think there's pieces where if you call the right network open things, it will just kind of do MTLS with what's in the TPM for you or in the secure enclave for you. So I'm mostly concerned about how do we follow something that feels standard and not bespoke.
Yeah, I don't have any of other standards like this. I mean, this approach combines some standards. I mean, the signature is a standard. The header is not standard. Exactly what do you sign? Which parts of the request do you sign? That's not standard. The public keys you use are not standard. Also, everyone supports RSA 2048.
I'd love to see prior art, and I think it would be easier for us to accept it. And I don't know if I'll feel the same in 2 weeks, but today, I mean, can we find any kind of prior art and follow standards?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the main prior art we're referencing is Apple's MDM approach. Of course, that is not. There's no standard document for that, but it is. We know it is using the CMS approach, but it is using a custom header.
And Seth, when you talk about doing this in an extension, I'm just trying to remember, like, is it possible to sort of have all TLS go through an extension? Is that what Launcher does?
That's what, yes and no. Launcher does it by implementing plugins for config, distributed, log, and what's the last one I'm missing? Anyhow, Launcher implements plugins. No, we don't do Carver. Carver's anyhow, whatever. Launcher just implements plugins for each of those and backs it to whatever it wants to do for network nonsense. So it cuts.
Because it is an interesting idea for an approach. Like if we could implement it in Go and then configure the Osquery daemon to use each of those plugins, then we wouldn't even have to write the C++ at all, and we need to implement it in Go as well anyway, right?
Yes, we do.
I can tell you that that is technically possible within the Osquery project. And the code base
Carver
that you
might
and I
not be
used to share.
supported.
You
I
saying
Might
don't
not
know.
be supported. It was a long time ago. I think that I wrote that code for Launcher, but that was probably about 6-7 years ago.
So
changed
the plugin would handle TLS, just basically replace the TLS plugin. That's what you're saying, Zach?
Yes. Yeah, but I think basically with Orbit, we tell Osquery to use the TLS plugin for getting its config for distributed queries, which are live queries, and for logs. And I guess theoretically in this case, Osquery would be configured to use whatever we want to call it, Orbit or something. And Orbit would then expose through the Osquery extension interface, which is thrift over a Unix domain socket, a way for Osquery to make the request, and then Go can do whatever it wants.
Mm-hmm.
This does introduce some complexities into the Osquery supervisor side, if you will, the Orbit side. I remember when we built Launcher, we had to do some kind of interesting stuff to get Osquery to start up properly, because it's like Osquery usually expects to be starting the plugin processes, not the plugin processes to be starting it. But we found some way to do it, and that code's open source, I think. So we could potentially look at that kind of thing.
Some of the code isn't anymore, but we have all leveled up in our Go since you wrote that code. So I think there are some better paths. One of the things that I don't even remember if it existed when you first wrote that is you need to tell Osquery to wait for the extension to be registered before trying to enroll or fetch a config file. So there's a command line option for that now. Right, because what you need to do is you need to...
we added an option to tell Osquery to wait for the extension to be registered before. Okay, I think that was sort of the biggest issue, is like you have to make sure that the extension registered before Osquery tries to do anything, or Osquery just errors out. I guess Collide probably added this because of that issue.
I don't remember if Collide added. I mean, the big Osquery, I forget. It might have been Trello Bits that added that. I don't remember where that flag came from, but it definitely cleans a lot of that up. It makes it much less racy. What I mean, honestly, I would love to see some kind of signatures in the Osquery project itself. That feels valuable. Without having a standard to point at, whatever we do will be wrong for 50% of the people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's harder to justify. So I don't have an easy answer for that. And then the other
I feel like if we supported the hardware back MTLS, that's more of a standard.
I think that's more of a standard. I just, if we found any standard, even a draft one, right, for signing web content, I think that would be we can be like, look, we built this. I think that would be great. But I'm concerned about SET header names, which encryption, which signature protocols. How do you signal the signature protocol in a way that lets us change it in a year? It's like there's a can of worms there around the crypto protocols. So anything that we can do that is a standard, I think, helps us.
Could we create a standard?
I have generally not been involved with the IETF.
Okay, so sounds like next step for me is to look into how to do a plugin and go.
Well, or see if there's a standard out there.
Or look for or create a standard.
I mean, I don't.
I just linked a thing that I found with Google. Like, I'm not sure if that's the same thing that you're already looking at. It looks like it's actually focused on HTTP requests.
I am not personally familiar with this standard.
It's a draft
Yeah.
from someone
I
at
just-
Amazon. Or from a few different people, I guess. The lead author is from Amazon.
Yeah. That's kind of needed. Also supports multiple signatures, which is pretty cool. I know that's a thing that Collide's played with. So
Okay. Yeah. I can take a look at this one and look for any other ones.
yeah, I mean, I recognize y'all are doing the work, but I'm very cautious about things, especially cryptography and network protocols that aren't standards driven. At least in Osquery core, and extensions like go nuts.
All right. Anyone else have anything to add for this? I do have to say I was looking at TPM stuff and it is kind of complex.
Yes. But welcome to secure hardware.
There's a Go implementation of this like draft standard, or like a type at least.
Mhm.
If I search for like that standard, I maybe find some other discussion. Oh boy. Like and like this mess of stuff. This actually sounds plausible. It sounds like there might be some things we could look at. Yeah.
Yeah, sounds good.
Is there other stuff people want to talk about? Would you all like half an hour back?
Sure.
Ooh, like a quick little thing. It is the next section says look at OpenCVS/security tickets. Is it supposed to say CVEs?
I do. I fix it every time I see it. It's CVE.
Okay,
Probably.
cool.
But I can fix the template that I make this from. Maybe I can fix the template.
Did a release get cut for 5.18?
Zach is in the middle of cutting one.
Yes, in fact, the CI is probably finished now. Nope, still running. But yes, Eric, I'll once the signed binaries are out with the draft release, I will be posting about it in the general channel.
Joseph, just this question about the standard. So the standard is for the signature. What about getting, communicating with TPM? I guess that's also standard. That's also a TPM standard. How we use TPM to sign things.
That's just an API. Do whatever you want.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't mean to be snarky, but like that's all something under the hood, and there's only so many APIs that you can use. I think the other thing that I don't know, and I haven't absorbed these standards enough, is we probably want not just the signature, but also what the public key is, because if the message comes into the server with just a signature, you can validate it, but against what?
I think the signature contains the public key.
No, in a straight cryptographic sense, the signature just is the it does not. So you usually, like, it depends on some encodings of the signature would also carry the public key, maybe, but again, C standards, not inherently.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, and for your own future, right? What do you do for machines that don't have a TPM, or on Apple hardware, or when the TPM doesn't respond in the amount of time you would like it to actually send the message you're sending?
Yeah.
It's a bit of a can of worms.
Yeah.
But yeah, it'll be great.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything else people want to talk about? Okay. I will attempt to fix that template. Zach, holler if you have any questions about releases. So I think they're straightforward.
Thanks, Seth. Where is that template? Because usually when I do this, I just look at the last
in my account
hours and oh, okay, I see. Yeah, because when I do it, I usually just look at the last one, delete the specific stuff, and freestyle.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's
cool.
all just sort of in my account, so it's imprecise. And I think HackMD has like changed a whole lot too since I wrote these.
Yeah.
But I will try and figure out where they're hiding it now. So okay. I don't know. If no one has anything else, then I think that's probably the end of today's meeting. Thank you all for your code and suggestions, and for all the ways Osquery gets better.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Turning off the recording.